Good evening, folks, and welcome to the live stream. I hope you're all very well. It's unbelievable. Last Friday, when we were doing the live stream, we were talking about the Green Party. We're talking about their win in Gorton and Denton. And now we're talking about World War III. It's unbelievable. So I hope you're all well and you're ready for World War III, because hey, it's going to be interesting. So a few stories are going to cover tonight. Of course, what's happening with Donald Trump, who's completely lost his mind. But every time I talk about Donald Trump, I ask the question, has he lost his mind? And I've been asking that question for the last number of years. He's insulted Keir Starmer. He's insulting the Spanish. It's all over the place. So I want to cover that, of course, and of course what's happening with the economy. The spring statement has come out, and I think the Chancellor needs to use the Donald effect. She needs to say, look, we need to increase taxes on the rich because, well, the economy is in the doldrums, is in dire straits because of what Donald Trump is doing. So she has an opportunity to blame Brexit and Donald Trump for the state of the economy. But anyway, let's get into the first story here. So there's so much to cover. I'm going to try and cover as much as possible, but it's just so insane. The last few days have been so insane. Donald Trump every day is putting out a crazier statement than the day before. And just before I jumped on the stream here, we have this. Donald Trump wants to offer some sort of marine insurance in the Strait of Hormuz, which is so pivotal for all the traffic that's traveling through the Middle East. You know, these massive tankers, these container ships, all of this that's going through, mainly oil and gas that's been transported. And it's been attacked at the moment. And Donald Trump is saying, hey, I can provide you some insurance if you pay a fee. So Donald Trump created this problem, and now he wants to charge people money to protect their cargo.
Okay, we're just going to bring you a bit of breaking news. We're talking about the economic effect of this conflict, and we've just had this post from Donald Trump. He says, effective immediately, I've ordered the United States Development Finance Corporation to provide, at a very reasonable price, political...
At a very reasonable price. Donald Trump created this disaster, and now he's trying to milk the companies who are suffering the consequences of this disaster.
Risk insurance and guarantees for the financial security of all maritime trade, especially energy travelling through the Gulf. This will be available to all shipping lines. If necessary, the United States Navy will begin escorting tankers through the Strait of Hormuz as soon as possible. No matter what, the United States will ensure the free flow of energy to the world. The United States' economic and military might is the greatest on earth. More actions to come.
Okay, one thing is to say, look, what we're going to do is we're going to protect ships in the strait in order to maintain traffic. That would be a good idea, maybe. But of course, it would be taking assets away from other areas that maybe they're needed. But to say, yeah, you need to pay a fee in order to be protected by the United States, this is like some sort of mafia boss shakedown.
Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Sam, can we get your reaction to that positive news potentially for the Strait of Hormuz?
It's fascinating. Look, in the first 48 hours after the bombing raid, what you saw is that strip of water between the UAE and Iran, which is absolutely essential, you can see it on the screen there, for containers with oil and liquid gas. About 10% of the traffic was going through that absolutely key junction in our shipping lanes. And the reason for that wasn't just the out-and-out threat, although there were attacks from Iran on some of the shipping containers, but because insurers had pooled their insurance for those boats. And frankly, if you're not...
Okay, so is Donald Trump going to insure these? So if these companies pay a fee, Donald Trump is going to underwrite them, which means that if they are sunk, the US taxpayer is going to compensate these companies. Because the the US Navy is not going to be able to protect every ship, and we're talking about a few drones. You don't need a huge amount of equipment to sink any of these or damage any of these vessels. So the US taxpayer is going to compensate. You know, Donald Trump keeps talking about a cost of living crisis or an affordability crisis, and he keeps saying, hey, what we need to do is we need to take money off poor people. We need to cut food stamps in order to balance the books. And now he's talking about compensating companies who lose their ships in the strait as a result of his action.
Not insured, you can't sail. And massive global insurers were going, the risk has just got too high. So what Donald Trump is doing is he's beginning the process of trying to work out whether the US government might be the insurer of last resort. So we'll see how that works, but that's one of the preconditions to get.
Can you imagine the cost of this insurance? It would be massive, because nobody wants to go through that strait at the moment because it's too dangerous, and there's no guarantee that the US would be able to protect those ships. It's a protection racket, exactly. Although in a protection racket, you're forced. But in this case, you're sort of, it's necessary for you to do this. You need to travel through this strait in order to deliver the oil and gas to market. But Donald Trump is saying, yeah, we can guarantee your security, but you have to pay. But would they be able to guarantee it? And if they don't guarantee it, then they'll pay out. The taxpayer, the US taxpayer, will pay out. But I don't even know what companies will be willing to do it. Because if no one takes it up, then he's failed here.
Boats back through the Straits of Hormuz.
Oh my goodness. Don't worry, Trump has the concept of a plan. He doesn't have a plan, but he has an idea of what a plan would look like. You know, there's a big piece of paper with some writing on it, numbers maybe, arrows, things like that. That's what a plan looks like, isn't it? He doesn't actually have a plan. He just has an idea of what a plan looks like. Oh my goodness. Look up his disclosure of interests. He's a landlord, or at least was. Who's that? Don't think you're talking about Donald Trump here. The US is an insurance company now, apparently. Yes. But it gets worse. So Donald Trump, of course, decided to insult Keir Starmer. Now, I actually think this is going to benefit Keir Starmer because Donald Trump is so unpopular. But let's have a listen to what he had to say.
Has UK. Now, the second one is shocking, but this is not the age of Churchill. I will say
It's not the age of Churchill. In the age of Churchill, whose side would Donald Trump be on? You know, invading other nations without international legislation backing it, going in alone pretty much, acting like a dictator, undermining human rights, throwing the Constitution in the bin. Which side of the coin would Donald Trump be on back in the 1940s?
UK has been very, very uncooperative with that stupid island that they have, that they gave away and took 100-year.
You know, I think what Donald Trump is doing is he's getting his talking points from Farage or someone like Farage. It's either Farage directly or Farage indirectly. So these people are speaking in his ear, the sort of worm tongue type individuals. And once again, this is because the reason I say this is because Donald Trump was against the Chagos Islands deal. Then he was for it. Then he was against it. Oh, no, he was against it. Then he was for it. Then he was against. I don't remember the order, but it was a number of times. His position on it changed hands a number of times. So he's not somebody. So it's obviously clear that he doesn't understand what's going on. So he's just listening to whoever is speaking in his ear, the last person in the room. It seems to be the case. He's not. He doesn't actually hold a position on this himself. He's just regurgitating whatever somebody said. And Nigel Farage and people like Nigel Farage have a lot of friends in the US, maybe some people within the Trump administration, and they're just speaking in Trump's ear saying, hey, the Chagos deal is terrible, and Trump goes, okay, whatever.
Release having to do with perhaps indigenous people claiming the island that never even saw the island before. What's that all about? And they They ruin relationships. It's a shame. It's and that country, UK, and I love that country.
I like how he says UK, not the UK.
I love it. My mother was born there. I love it. My mother was born there. My father was born. Right? He knows all about my father. My father was.
Did Trump forget what country he's talking about? My father was born in what's the name of that place? Germany. Yes.
Born there, so very places that you sort of automatically very feel warmly about. But the UK, what they're doing with energy and what they're doing with immigration is horrible. You have the North Sea. Somebody said yesterday, what would you do if you were the UK? Open up the North Sea. They got windmills all over the place that are ruining the country, ruining the landscapes, ruining the beautiful fields. Open up the North Sea. It's one of the greatest. Think of it. They buy their energy from Norway, which gets the energy, the oil, from the North Sea.
Why is that? Why is that the case? I've already mentioned it on the channel. The reason why that's the case is because infrastructure is one issue. Because the wells on the Norwegian side, if you want to describe it as that, are newer. The wells on the UK side are older. And it's more expensive. As the well gets older, it's more expensive to extract the oil and gas from those wells. So the newer wells are easier to extract oil and gas from. It's cheaper. And of course, Norway has invested a huge amount in the infrastructure to deal with the oil and gas. So they have been investing for a long time. The UK has not. And the UK's approach is to move away from oil and gas. So, Donald Trump obviously doesn't know this, or does know it and is lying.
So Norway drills in the North Sea and sells it to UK. And UK has a better part of the...
It's not sells it to the UK, it's sold on the international market. This is the whole problem with the likes of Jacob Rees-Mogg and Angela, what's her name now? Andrea Jenkins, who keep saying, we need to frack, we need to frack, we need to frack. It doesn't matter how much oil and gas you extract out of the North Sea, it will be sold on the international market. So you will buy it at the international rate. So if you extract more, it's not really going to have an impact on the price that ordinary people pay, because they're still buying it, or the wholesalers are buying it on the international market. So what's the point in pushing this line of frack, 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 or extract more and more and more? It's not the case of it's being extracted and then part of it is for the UK market alone and then it goes into the international market. No, it all goes into the international market. And we're talking not about a state company doing it. We're talking about private companies. So if the private companies see a profit there, they will go in there and they will extract the oil and gas. If they don't, or if they don't think it's feasible, maybe they're asking for subsidies, they're asking for support from the state. But if they don't get that, they're going to say, hey, we're not going to go in here because it's not worth our while.
The North Sea. Open up that. And number two, illegal immigration. They got to solve that problem.
He doesn't understand.
And I must say, that's not only UK, that's other parts of the European Union that have the same problem. Immigration and energy. The energy is through the roof, the highest in the world, and the immigration.
So if the price of gas is through the roof, why would it benefit the UK extracting more from the oil from the North Sea? Sorry, wouldn't it make more sense to move away from gas, away from oil, move to what he calls windmills? Because then if you link the price of energy to windmills, then it'd be much cheaper.
I mean, look, you have places where in the UK you have a terrible mayor of London. Terrible. He's an incompetent.
He's so incompetent that he's been elected 3 times. Is it 3 times now? He's still more popular than any other candidate. He's still quite popular in London. Like, Donald Trump keeps talking about how he's incompetent, how he's terrible, but he's never given an example of how he's terrible.
Guy, but you have Sharia courts. You don't have Sharia courts. You don't want Sharia courts. You have Sharia courts adjudicating law.
No, they don't adjudicate law. I'm sorry, Donald. We have to explain this to you. Sharia courts are no different to... Sharia law is no different to canon law or Jewish law. So if you're a Jew, if you're a Catholic, or if you're a Muslim, you will be bound generally if you want to. It's not an obligation on everyone, but if you're deeply religious, you would be bound by that law. For example, canon law, if people don't know, canon law covers when baptisms take place. Talks about when children should go to school or what sort of education, religious education they should receive. It's a law, but it doesn't supersede the law of the state.
So it's very...
Because the UK is not a theocracy, okay? Like if you go to Iran maybe, or Saudi Arabia, Donald Trump doesn't have a problem with Saudi Arabia. He doesn't have a problem with Sharia law in Saudi Arabia. Why? He suddenly has this massive problem with Sharia law if it's in the UK, but not in Saudi Arabia. He's friends with the Saudi prince. Why doesn't he bring up the point of Sharia law there?
simple. Immigration, very importantly, immigration and energy. And you bring it back. Otherwise, you're not going to bring it back. Okay.
Why should we be taking advice from this guy? So Sky News reported on the reaction to... It's not Churchill we're dealing with.
He was incredibly critical of Sir Keir Starmer, as well as the UK, saying they've been uncooperative. Let's bring in our US correspondent, Mark Stone. And Mark, when we see a leader visit Donald Trump at the Oval Office and give one of these press conferences, it's always...
So, over 90% of power production in Norway is green energy. I know that they produce a lot of fossil fuel and it's sold. It's not actually consumed, and not a lot of it is consumed in Norway. A lot of it is sold and the money is added to a wealth fund, which makes a lot of sense. Here in Scotland, we produce more green energy than we can use. Yeah, Scotland is in a unique position where it's able to, with wind power, it's able to generate a huge amount and it's able to sell it to the rest of the UK. Although, because energy is not a devolved matter, the UK government, Westminster, controls the purse strings there, or controls energy.
Is filled with so many, quotes that Donald Trump comes out with. And one of them was that he said about Sir Keir Starmer that he's no Winston Churchill, amongst many other things in terms of criticism directed at the UK. And
who gives a crap? It's Donald Trump we're talking about. If Donald Trump says you're no Winston Churchill, I'll be like, okay. You're not a historian. If it was an historian who said, look, you're no Winston Churchill, well, first of all, to be correct, because there was only one Winston Churchill. But if you're to say you're nothing like Winston Churchill, okay, I'm not. Like, Winston Churchill was a man of his time. Winston Churchill had his good sides, his good points, and his bad points. But I'd like to say you're no Winston Churchill, yes, because the UK is not at war at the moment. The UK has not been attacked by another state. We're not living in 1940s.
And the British Prime Minister.
Yeah, what would we call that? A broadside, I think. It was almost felt like Starmer's Zelensky Oval Office moment, and Starmer wasn't even...
Not really. Look, I think we're gone... We're a bit past that all now. When Donald Trump attacked Zelensky, that was something that shocked people, but we're no longer shocked. We've become numb to this now. Donald Trump goes on a rampage, on a verbal rampage, insulting everyone that left, right, and center, and it's no longer, he just keeps doing this. So the more he does it, the less impact it has. If this happened a year ago, I'd be like, oh my goodness, Donald Trump is insulting the Prime Minister. But Donald Trump insults people all the time. If it's not journalists, it's politicians. If it's not politicians, it's world leaders. If it's not world leaders, it's members of the public. He just insults everyone. He's like some old guy sitting on his lawn or sitting, on his bench, insulting the cars as they go by. There's nothing new here.
Here for it. Absolutely extraordinary language, devastating language.
Just Freckle Bunny says, you're no JFK, FDR, Barack Obama, Abraham Lincoln, etc. Exactly. You're no Dwight, what was it, Dwight C. No, was it Dwight Eisenhower? I forgot the middle name.
From the president when it comes to the relationship with the United Kingdom. He said this, referring to Keir Starmer, is not Churchill that we are dealing with, not happy with the UK. What is all this about? It is about Britain's position, the British government's position. Keir Starmer...
Just to stop for a moment. Peter, thank you so much for that super chat. Peter says, shame Trump didn't tell Boris he's no Churchill. Yes, Boris would have taken offence to that. I don't think Keir Starmer is taking much offence to that. But once again, Donald Trump keeps insulting everyone. So it's not really having much of an effect anymore. It's a bit like, the boy who cried wolf.
Position on Iran, on the initial strike that took place at the weekend. It was the British government's view that that strike was not legal and that the UK could not support it because it did not believe there was an imminent enough threat from Iran to warrant military action under international law. And so the British decided not to grant the Americans the use of air bases. Now, Donald Trump kept referring to that island. It was almost as though he couldn't remember the name of it. That island is Diego Garcia. He conflated different things as well because he talks about the fact that the UK is handing sovereignty of that island away. That is true and it's very controversial, but it's got nothing to do with the use of that airbase right now for the operation in Iran. The reason the British didn't allow the use of that is because, as I say, they had concerns over the legality of the war. The same is the case for the airbase at Fairford in the UK. Very, very controversial decision by the United Kingdom. Keir Starmer is busy arguing why he believes it's the case back in the UK.
And this could come to bite Keir Starmer on the arse sometime in the future. Because if this entire operation gets out of control, you'll start to see protests outside these air bases. You're going to see people complaining a lot, people protesting. That you may see a crackdown on protests outside these air bases. People will be saying, why are we supporting this disaster in Iran? And there'll be a lot of pressure on the Prime Minister to cut off support for the United States. Because it's very difficult for... two problems here. First of all, Keir Starmer has said, okay, these bases can be used for defensive measures. Okay, but what is a defensive measure? A defensive operation? How do you know that it's been used to defend something? And then the second is, if Donald Trump decides to, well, we're going to use them for offensive measures, then how are they going to stop the US from using? Because he could say, look, you can't use the Air Force Base, and Donald Trump could say, I don't give a crap, I'm going to fly there anyway. Or you could say, well, we're going to close off all traffic to these Air Force bases, and you could do that. You could block the runway, and then nothing can land. But then you're going to be picking a fight with Trump. So it's a lose-lose situation. And I understand what Keir Starmer is trying to do, and I've said this before on the channel. I think what he's trying to do is keep Trump happy, not because he's a poodle. I want to be very clear about this. Not because he's a poodle for Trump. He wants to keep Trump happy because he needs him on board when it comes to Ukraine. The US is still with its toe in the door when it comes to Ukraine. They're not completely out. They're providing reconnaissance. They're providing data on movements of Russian troops. This is really important for the Ukrainians. So if the US were to pull that, the Ukrainians will be in serious trouble. So this is why there's no direct criticism of Trump. And the other, of course, is tariffs. If Donald Trump gets upset, he'll slap tariffs or insult, he'll insult the Prime Minister, but he'll slap tariffs on the UK. And then Keir Starmer will be in trouble again. So I think what he's trying to do is keep Trump happy, or try and avoid his wrath. But by doing so, it makes him look like a poodle, makes him look spineless. And maybe I'm wrong. I could be reading the room completely wrong here, but this is the impression I get, that he wants to keep Trump on board when it comes to Ukraine, and he wants to avoid economic sanctions from the US.
Okay, but the impact, the rupture that decision has had on the special relationship is...
There is no special relationship, okay? This is a mirage. There is no special relationship. If there was a special relationship, it ended with Brexit. So the UK being some sort of bridge between the US and Europe, that's over now. It's gone. There is no special relationship, if that was what it was about. And that's what it was normally presented as. Freckle Bunny, thanks so much for that super chat. Trump's obituary, Iran from any fucking responsibility. Thanks for that. Well said.
Found. Now, the UK government, I've spoken to sources prior to this moment, of course, over the past few days. They are saying...
Max, Trump had his tariff latitude wings clipped now. Little maneuver. There are still some tariffs that he can impose. So there are others that he needs congressional support for. But there are some security tariffs that he can impose. So he hasn't had the ability to impose tariffs completely taken away from him. There are some security ones that he can impose, which are still a problem.
Look, the special relationship has its moments. It's deeper than one particular president. And of course, at times, different strands of the special relationship come under strain.
I have to ask this question. What is the special relationship? Because it seems to be a one-way thing. The US goes to war and the UK goes along with them. That seems to be the special relationship. George W. Bush goes into Iraq. Tony Blair goes along with him. That's the special relationship. Donald Trump goes into Iran and he wants Keir Starmer to go along with him. That's it. You know, when it came to Syria, the UK deciding whether to join the US, is that the special relationship? It's like the US does something and the UK has to decide, do we go along with them or not? It doesn't sound like a relationship. You know, it doesn't sound like a relationship in the normal sense of the word.
But broadly, it's fine. That is very, very positive spin on what is, without question, a relationship that is under great strain right now. And Yalda, as you heard when he talked about Spain, when the president talks about...
Okay, I'll get to Spain now. This is what Donald Trump said about Spain. Oh my goodness, he's insane. He's insane. And then we're trying to deal with a child who has huge amounts of power and it acts like a toddler.
But some of the European, like Spain, has been terrible. In fact, I told Scott to cut off all dealings with Spain. Spain, first of all, it started when every European nation, at my request, paid 5%, which they should be doing. And everybody was enthusiastic about it. Germany.
Okay, so what's the context here? Spain has said, no, you cannot use our Air Force bases to carry out attacks in Iran. And Trump is like, oh, I hate Spain now. It's like, you're supposed to do as I say. You know, we keep hearing how when it comes to NATO, you're on your own. You know, like Italy, Spain, France, Germany, the UK, we don't want anything to do with you. We don't want to be in Europe. To hell with you. You're on your own. You're on your own. You're on your own. And then as soon as they say, okay, you're on your own when it comes to attacking Iran, how dare you say we're on our own? Like it's always this one-way relationship with Donald Trump. Donald Trump demands something and people give it. As soon as somebody says something different, he's like, oh, you're insulting me, or you're not playing the game, or you're not on our side. You have, for the last number of months, been saying to Europe, you're on your own. You can't rely on the US. We're not coming to help you. And then as soon as we say, okay, we're not coming to help you either, then Donald Trump throws a tantrum.
Germany, everybody. And Spain didn't do it. And now Spain actually said that we can't use their bases. And that's all right. We could use their base if we want. We could just fly in and use it.
Try and land with bricks on the runway. It's insane. Yeah, we'll just fly in there. And what if they have I don't know, somebody is like, hey, there's a plane flying in, it doesn't have permission. Maybe we should shoot it down. Okay. Or even if they don't shoot it down, they let it land and there are bricks, concrete blocks on the runway. Do a bit of damage to your aircraft, wouldn't it? Yeah, we'll just land. We'll just take over these bases. Like, once again, Spain, a NATO ally. Once again, this guy keeps saying, hey, you need to play. You need to be on our side. And then as soon as we say, well, we don't want to be on your side. Okay, then we're going to use your bases anyway. Can you imagine if it had gone the other way? Imagine if Spain had said, hey, we're going to use US Air Force bases without their consent. What do you think the US would do? Would they say, oh, okay, well, we have to go along with them? Or do you think they would shoot the planes out of the sky?
Nobody's going to tell us not to use it.
No one's... See, the bully, no one's going to... Well, they could say, okay, if you want to land, you can. But I'm sorry if you have any... If the landing is a little bit bumpy, okay, you can do it. We're not going to stop you. But, I'm sorry if your planes get destroyed on the way to the terminal.
We don't have to, but they were unfriendly. And so I told him, we don't want to... Spain has absolutely nothing that we need other than great people.
Yeah, let them land and then confiscate it and arrest the pilot. Yes, because the pilot would be in a foreign country without permission. It will be illegal immigration. Trump keeps talking about illegal immigration. You need to stop illegal immigration. And then he's suggesting that planes should land illegally. And what would they do then?
They have great people, but they don't have great leadership. And as you know, they were the only country that in NATO would not agree to go up to 5%. I don't think they would have agreed to go up to anything. They wanted to keep it at 2%.
Damn sovereignty. They're not they have to go up to wherever Donald Trump says.
And they don't pay the 2%. So we're going to cut off all trade with Spain. We don't want anything to do with Spain.
Oh, God. He doesn't know that Spain is a member of the European Union. You don't get to ban just Spain. You'd have to ban the entire European Union. But, Scott Benson, his trade secretary, is probably telling, yes, sir, yes, of course, yeah, we'll ban Spain. Yeah. And then the intern is going, but we can't. You just shut up. Just go with whatever Donald Trump will say, yeah, we're banning Spain today, and then forget tomorrow, so don't worry about it. That's how it always works. Ah, oh, God. We're living in the upside down, guys. I've mentioned this before, but I'm convinced we're living in a parallel universe. There is another universe where, Kamala Harris became president and we're talking about boring stuff. Okay.
I wouldn't want to be in the Spanish Foreign Office.
Hold on. Let me lower the volume here a little bit. So this is Ben Kentish. No, Tom Swarbrick, sorry.
I wouldn't want to be in the Spanish Foreign Office at this point, given that Trump is apparently cutting off all ties with Spain because of their refusal to go to 5% of GDP on NATO.
Some of the European, like Spain, has been terrible. In fact, I told Scott...
Should Spain be worried? Of course not, because Trump will forget tomorrow.
To cut off all dealings with Spain. Spain, first of all, it started when every European nation, at my request, paid 5%, which they should be doing. And everybody was enthusiastic about it, Germany, everybody. And Spain didn't do it. And now Spain actually said that we can't use their bases. And that's all right. We could use their base if we want. We could just fly in and use it. Nobody's going to tell us not to use it. But we don't have to. But they were...
I was hoping a bit more from Tom, but anyway. So... do you think Donald Trump is going to get his way with Spain? He's going to force Spain up to 5%. Well, I think the Spanish government is not really off the idea of investing more in the military. Whether that's a good thing or not is up to the Spanish. But they're not going to do it because Donald Trump says so. And they're certainly not going to do it because Donald Trump is saying, hey, you need to do it because I need to go to Iran. Oh, my goodness. Spain said mean thing about me. Yes. In a universe far, far away, Jobs the Hutt rules the USA. Yeah, Trump is cooked anyway. He has no concept of what no means. Somebody, and I can't take credit for this, but when Donald Trump said, "Hey, you're gonna let us use your runways," he was projecting his inner rapist. Once a rapist, always a rapist. That's what rapists say. A numpty of a president. Spain won't share their toys with me. Yes. It isn't human. No, it's not. Oh my goodness. Anyway, let's move on. I want to show you this completely different. So as we know, there was the election, the by-election recently, but I want to show you a back and forth between a host of GB News and Ben from friend of the show channel Turn Left Media, and have a listen to it. Maybe some of you have seen this. This is absolutely wonderful. So he was challenged on the deputy leader of the Green Party attending a protest. Have a listen.
Green Party leader Zach Polansky has now called on Sir Keir Starmer to condemn the strikes on Iran after branding the US and Israel rogue states. He says the strikes are illegal.
Okay. It is rogue action to act outside international law. That's acting rogue. That's the definition of being rogue, not following the rules, not following the law. So Zach Polansky is completely correct here. They're not following international law.
Illegal and unprovoked. And the answer is negotiation and de-escalation. Meanwhile, his co-deputy leader, Mothin Ali, was spotted at what appeared to be a pro-Tehran rally over the weekend. How dangerous are the Green Party? Joining us now is the editor of Turn Left UK, Ben McLean. Ben, thank you very much. Tremendous to see you. Great to have you on the show. So, look, Mothin's kind of 2 for 2 on the old terror attack situation.
The campaign for nuclear disarmament obviously want to disarm nuclear weapons. The protest signs produced by the Stop the War Coalition and CND were...
Okay, before we continue, the Stop the War Coalition, okay, I don't agree with everything they're saying, but they're not pro-Iran, okay? They want to stop war. They see a war taking place and they're against a war taking place and they're protesting against the war. They're not pro-Ayatollah. They're not pro-Iran or pro the regime. They want to stop the war from taking place. Now, we can agree or disagree with them in general or specifically in this case, but they're not pro-Iran, okay? They're anti-war. Anyway, let's continue.
We're on the ground there, and in those pictures that you showed, say, don't attack Iran, stop Trump's wars, and no war in Iran. Not, they're not saying, like, glory to the martyred Ayatollah, right? It would be a bit different if we were in that situation.
Unfortunately, we are. They're not doing it there, but unfortunately, that is literally happening now. There are vigils taking place for the Ayatollah now.
Okay, but the vigils are not part of the Stop the War campaign. Like, what he's trying to do is say, there are vigils taking... And there are people in Britain and other countries around the world which are mourning for the Ayatollah, and these people are disgraceful individuals. But they're not the same people as the one who are marching against the war. They're probably against the war, but not for the right reasons. Okay? But the Stop the War campaign is completely different to them. That's like saying, well, these people who are protesting outside hotels... Well, there's also another group of people who are neo-Nazis, and they want to stop people from going into these hotels. They want to see asylum seekers removed. Are they the same people? Well, no, technically they're not. Maybe there's a bit of a crossover, but we can't say the people who are protesting outside hotels, holding up Union flags or flags of St. George, we can't say that those people are Nazis, because they literally aren't. But the ones who are literally Nazis are protesting somewhere else. But you can't combine the two and say, well, they're both the same.
I very much doubt Mothin Ali is at one of those.
I don't think Mothin Ali is in attendance. I'd say, by the way, Saddam Hussein was a brutal dictator, and his sons, Uday and Qusay Hussein, terrorized the people of Iraq. But if you were one of the people that marched against the war in Iraq, no one could really say that you support, for example, Saddam Hussein's genocide of the Kurdish people.
Wonderful. Hole in one. Absolutely brilliant. And he's completely correct. Well, if you protested against the war in Iraq, obviously you're on the side of Saddam Hussein. No, you're not. I marched in Dublin against the war in Iraq. Did it make any difference? No, unfortunately. But I wanted to send a message to the United States, to the UK, do not engage in a war in Iraq. And did that mean that I was a supporter of Saddam Hussein? No, I thought he was a terrible individual. I'm glad that he's no longer around. But it was not that did not mean it was legal or correct to invade Iran in that way, or Iraq in that case in that way.
Like that, those two positions don't really add up. I'd also say, Ayatollah Khamenei, sorry, not Khomeini. Khomeini was the previous leader. Ayatollah Khamenei was a brutal dictator. And I condemn unequivocally, and Mohsen Ali would condemn as well, unequivocally, the acts of atrocity committed by Ayatollah Khamenei. But Khamenei was also a right-wing hardliner in Iranian politics. He was part of the Combatant Clergy Association, a right-wing militia group in Iran, responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands of...
Stop saying right-wing. Please stop saying right-wing. You're going to upset GB News. They'll be like, what? They were right-wing? I thought they were all lefties. No. They're very far right. Okay, they're very right-wing, these individuals. Something GB News probably don't like to hear because GB News, but we're right-wing. We're not like these individuals.
The protesters and the morality police suppressing women's rights. But Mohsen Ali is a leftist following a gay, vegan, Jewish leader who, Mohsen Ali runs a...
It's like GB News and Reform UK keep trying to sell this message. The Greens, they're extremists. They're Islamists. they're Islamists run by a gay, vegan, Jewish guy. It's like at what stage does the whole thing fall apart? Are there people in the Green Party who are insane? Yes, of course there are. Are there people in the Labour Party who are insane? Of course there are. Are there people in Reform UK who are not insane? Probably. But, you don't get to say that just because a few people in the party you disagree with, you can't say that everyone is like that. Brainwashing by GB News and other news. Yes, that's thanks so much, Frate. That's exactly what they're doing. It's about trying to, and wait till we get to the end of the clip, and you see exactly what he's talking about.
A YouTube channel called My Family Gardens, all about growing his own veggies in his garden.
He also shouted Allahu Akbar when he won a local council and said, "This is for Gaza." So, there is that stuff.
Absolutely,
as well.
He believes in the human rights of the Gazans, and he shouted, "God is great" when he won his election. Absolutely, but he also attends Bilal Masjid Mosque in Leeds, which is a Sunni mosque, and Mohsen is Bangladeshi. Most Bangladeshis are Sunni. The Ayatollah was a Shia religious leader. When people claim that Mohsen is in support of the Ayatollah because he attended an anti-war protest, it seems a bit like claiming that Irish Protestants supported the Good Friday Agreement because of their love of the Pope as God's messenger on earth. You see what I mean?
Icing on the cake. It's like, the problem here is that for GB News, all Muslims are the same. Okay, Sadiq Khan is the same as what was the name of the guy with the hook? It's like they're all the same. They're all the same. They're all Muslims. That's the message GB News is trying to sell. Like Sunni, Shia, there's no difference. They all support each other. They're like one massive monolith. Okay, it was perfect. Protestants were like we're supporting the Good Friday Agreement because of their love for the Pope. Amazing.
It's a misunderstanding of...
Well, as I understand what the Green Party's policy on this would be, it would be to divest ourselves from America and Israel, so lose both of those as allies completely, and then just...
No, where have they said divest from them? It's about the military. It's not about we don't want to trade with America or Israel. I haven't heard them say that we want to cut off all trade with Israel. Maybe the caveat is until they start upholding human rights. But when it comes to the United States, you can't really avoid trade with the United States. I don't think they have said that. Although I could be wrong, and I'll correct it if I find out.
To have negotiated with the...
Lentil rice and peace.
Ayatollah, to send Zach Polanski out there to negotiate with the Ayatollah. From America and Israel, so lose both of those as allies completely, and then just to have negotiated with the Ayatollah, to send Zach Polanski out there to negotiate with the Ayatollah.
Okay, the Prime Minister doesn't negotiate. It's like another problem they have. You actually have professional negotiators who negotiate. The Prime Minister, the President doesn't negotiate. Now, with Donald Trump, it seems to have been a little bit different, but generally, Prime Minister, government heads of government don't do the negotiations. It's actually professional negotiators who do it.
Do you not think, I mean, it kind of makes more sense when you realise that they also want to legalise crack cocaine, this stuff, doesn't it, really?
Well, legalise and regulate. Importantly, crack cocaine would only be sold by pharmacies in that situation. Not,
yes.
You know, you can just go in the local shop and buy crack cocaine. Right. The same way that you couldn't buy it from Boots specialist pharmacies. Importantly, because these things have to be regulated. The same way that, by the way, we regulate methadone, right, for treatment of. Like,
Christie, the GB News guy is like, I'm on a roll now. I'm gonna throw in the crack cocaine. The Greens want to legalize crack cocaine. Imagine crack cocaine. Yeah, but what about methadone? Okay, let's move on.
Currently. But anyway, that's a distraction. The Green policy on this is that the West took 20 years and $2.3 trillion to replace the brutal regime of the Taliban in Afghanistan with the brutal regime of the Taliban in Afghanistan. And let's not do the same in Iran, right?
Okay, I think Christie is getting the feeling now, okay, we need to end this. Over. He's getting in his ear. Stop the interview. Move on. We're not winning here. We're losing pretty badly. We're losing men by the moment.
Let's not spend another $3 trillion to replace the Islamic extremists in Iran with more Islamic extremists, right? Food inflation will go through the roof in that time, and struggling British families will suffer.
Cut him off. Cut him off. He's making too much sense. Cut him off.
As Iran attacks the Strait of Hormuz, and prices will go through the roof.
Right.
The money that's spent on this should go on NHS care, investing in local communities, and improving.
He mentioned the NHS. Shut it down.
Conditions for our armed forces, which is a Green Party policy, by the way. Improving conditions, pensions for the armed forces. Excuse me. Yeah, go.
All right, we're at the end of the hour, I'm afraid. Ben,
wow, got through it in the end. Okay. I don't think Ben is going to be invited back anytime soon. So, I have to ask the question, do people like Patrick Christie actually believe the right-wing talking points, or is it just like, well, it's my job. My job is to act like a far-right individual and, talk about immigration in this way and whatever. And then, if you met him, in the pub or something like that, he'd be like, no, immigrants are fine. It's my job to hate them. None of them believe in anything. It's a grift. It sounds like that. Get these pricks off. Think of my blood pressure. Sorry about that, Bill. It's over. I want to show you. We're going to unfortunately have to stick with Donald Trump for a bit, but I want to show you that this is interesting. This is the dilemma Trump is facing as war with Iran escalates. So what is the problem? Well,
as the war expands across the Middle East, Iran has been firing retaliatory strikes across this region ever since the US-Israeli attack that started on Saturday morning. Iran's been targeting US bases, residential areas, industrial centres and lots of other locations. So these are the areas that have been hit today. Well, there were plenty of missile interceptions in the sky above Jerusalem this morning, and there have been explosions in Dubai and Abu Dhabi in the UAE, in Doha in Qatar, and in Manama in Bahrain. Iran is continuing this policy of attacking across a wide area. The US has struck Iran for the third day in a row. Tehran says it won't negotiate, but we have seen images of huge destruction and big plumes of smoke coming up from Tehran. The Iranian authorities say that at least 555 people have been killed in the 3 days of this war so far. Iran says that one of its nuclear facilities at Natanz has been attacked. In Kuwait, 3 American fighter jets were shot down by accident by Kuwait's own air defences. The 6 members of crew all managed to eject from their planes and emerged unscathed. They were all transferred to hospital. In Lebanon, more than 30 people have...
That's really weird, how US planes were shot down by Kuwaiti air defences. Like, surely the Kuwaiti air defences are American-made. I would imagine they are. They're not coming from anywhere else. So American air defenses shot down American... Like, surely the air defenses will be sophisticated enough to identify the type of aircraft. And of course, the Iranians would not be flying American aircraft. So that's really weird. Like, if it happened once, it's understandable, but 3 times?
Been killed after Israeli attacks on Beirut and other locations. They were sparked when Hezbollah fired rockets into northern Israel, saying it was seeking revenge for the killing of Ayatollah Khamenei. The intelligence chief of Hezbollah has also been killed, according to Israel. In Cyprus, the UK's RAF base at Akrotiri was hit in a drone strike. There are no casualties reported, but it happened just a few hours after Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that the UK's bases could be used by the US.
Now, it's not exactly the case that this was a result. I don't think these 2 things are connected. I think it's possible that, because there are 2 arguments being put forward. One is that it would have taken too long. You know, if Starmer said we will allow the US, the time for a drone to come from Iran to hit that Air Force base in Cyprus was too long. So some people are saying those 2 things are not connected. But it's possible that the drone came from not Iran, but from a proxy in maybe Lebanon. So that's it was, you know, a drone from Lebanon could have easily hit Cyprus in that amount of time.
Although he insisted that Britain would not be part of any offensive action. The Cypriot government says there has now been a second drone attack on the base. Saudi Arabia, a close ally of the US and one of the world's biggest military spenders, hadn't really been affected by this conflict until today. 2 drones were intercepted and destroyed above its Ras Tanura oil refinery, but falling debris appears to have started a fire in that area. And online videos verified by Sky News have shown big plumes of smoke going up into the air. And in Oman, a man was killed during an attack at the Sultan Qaboos port. Shipping is being disrupted and the price of oil has surged.
Great. Wonderful. So on the story of, well, this is a massive problem for Gulf nations because they are now in the firing line because of Donald Trump's actions. So this creates a problem for Donald Trump because he thought, okay, I'll go in there, get it all done and dusted and remove the leader and then everything would be fine and would be able to do it before Iran was in a position to retaliate. But obviously that didn't work. You know, one of the stories coming out is that the US attacked Iran very late in the morning. And the reason being was Israel wanted to go after the leaders. And of course, they were successful in that. But it meant that US attacks on infrastructure was later and it gave the Iranians more time to respond. So the US is in a worse situation because they allowed Israel to go ahead. I want to move on to another story here, guys, because we're almost at the end of the stream for tonight. What's happening in the UK with the economy? So it says here, let's have a listen to Beth.
The spring statement's meant to be a big deal because it's the moment that the Chancellor updates us on how well or not the economy's doing. But look, it all felt a bit pointless today against the backdrop of a potentially massive war in the Middle East that could throw all of the Chancellor's plans off course. And I have to say, watching it felt like I was living a bit in a parallel universe of normal times when it's anything but. And to be fair, the Chancellor did acknowledge that elephant in the room when she stood up in the Commons.
This government has the right economic plan for our country. A plan that is even more important in a world that in the last few days has become yet more uncertain.
Putting it bluntly, the government has no idea at the moment whether this is a short-term shock that will stabilise.
And that's why they need to start blaming this disaster on Trump and Brexit to a lesser extent, of course. But to say, okay, now we need to take radical action. We need to start taxing people who have money to help people who don't. Here is an opportunity. There's a massive opportunity here to turn things around, to act radically. Because if Nigel Farage was in charge, he would of course be acting pretty radically. If Kemi Badenoch was in charge, he would be acting pretty radically. So I honestly don't know why the Chancellor isn't using this as an opportunity to say, look, I don't want to tax rich people, but look at the current situation. We have a war going on. There's the price of oil is going up. It's going to hurt the most vulnerable people in society. Energy prices are going to go up. We need to deal with this. We need to have a radical plan in place. And one of those radical plans is to tax the rich. They're doing well at the moment. They need to shoulder some of the burden.
Quickly, or a much more profound hit to the global economy that's going to have massive reverberations here. But against that backdrop, the Chancellor adopted a keep calm and carry on approach as she tried to argue about how her stewardship of the economy had put Britain in a stronger place.
The choices this government have made are the right ones.
Okay, but there's no growth at the moment. Like, the whole point was we're going to come in and we're going to rebuild public services based on growth. But there is no growth. And now you've been thrown another curveball because when she came into power, she was like, don't worry, we have plans for the future. Everything will be fine. We're going to grow the economy and we're going to use that growth to fund public services. And then Donald Trump was elected. And now Donald Trump is at war with Iran. Once again, these are opportunities for UBI. Don't get me started. Too many Muslim countries have vivid memories of the fallout of Iraq. They're never going to have another American war on their land. No, of course not. And this is a massive problem when it comes to refugees. If the situation is resolved, there's a risk of, if the regime in Iran falls, there's a risk of civil war. Because there are people who are not going to go away quietly. And there's a real possibility you end up with a situation like Libya, a failed state. And then you're going to have a massive amount of refugees. There are 89 million people in Iran. It's not some small country. It's a pretty big country. And you're going to have a massive amount of refugees flowing into neighboring nations. And this is going to put pressure on some people, pressure on those countries. And you're also going to see people cross the channel in small boats in order to get to the UK because they have connections to the UK. They speak the language, or maybe there's an opportunity for them to be safe from the civil war. Nigel Farage's response is, no, we don't want these people coming in. At the same time as Nigel Farage is going to meet with people who are protesting in favour of this war.
Stability in our public finances, interest rates and inflation.
Wait, why are they always so animated? Why is this necessary? Confidence in our public finances. We're going to really... I honestly don't understand.
Falling, living standards rising.
And when it comes to the forecast from the independent fiscal watchdog, the Office of Budget Responsibility, on the downside, growth's been downgraded for 2026 and unemployment is higher than expected.
UBI people.
On the plus side, the Chancellor noted that interest rates have fallen, borrowing costs are coming down, and inflation is falling faster than expected, all allowing her to argue that the government...
In a way, because the economy is not doing very well.
...really is intent on tackling the cost of living.
I know that the question that people will ask themselves at the next election is this: are me and my family better off?
She's been watching my videos. I'm joking. But that's the question people will ask. Am I better off? And if the answer is yes, they're going to vote for you. If the answer is, I don't know or no, they're not going to vote for you.
I am determined that the answer will be yes.
This war in the Middle East.
Once again, and that was a perfect transition, because it's something you're not in control of. That's the problem here. If you're basing your entire platform on we're going to improve people's lives based on issues that are beyond our control, then you're not going to be able to improve people's lives. That's why you need to take drastic action. You need to take radical action. The UK is not bound by the rules of the European Court, the European Central Bank. So it's much freer in a sense because of Brexit. You're able to do pretty much what you want. But you need to start implementing measures to improve people's lives. And here's an opportunity to take radical action. But I'm afraid they're not going to do that.
As a stark reminder that things are not entirely in her control. And I don't want to alarm you, but in the past couple of days, gas prices have shot up, oil prices are on the rise, and if that morphs into a longer-term problem, there are real knock-on effects.
And remember, if the economy is doing badly, this benefits populist parties. This will benefit the Green Party, it will benefit Reform UK. So Rachel Reeves needs to decide, does she want to see Reform or the Greens get into government? More likely Reform, because the Greens are still... I highly doubt that the Greens will make it into number 10. It's more likely Nigel Farage's Reform. But if she doesn't improve the situation for ordinary people, and once again, there's an opportunity to blame radical action on Donald Trump. Say, I have to do these things because of the war in Iran. So guys, I want to say thanks to everyone who came on tonight. Thank you so much for your super chats. Greatly appreciated. Thanks to everyone who smashed the like button. And thanks to the moderators for doing a wonderful job as always. I will be back on a Friday. Same bad time, same bad channel. But before we go, one for the road. Hope you enjoy this. It's a short one, but it's a good one.
Everything is absolutely fine and things should stay exactly as they are, according to a joint statement issued by the super rich today. In a surprise video address delivered exclusively to Broken News on a single-use golden laptop via private jet, a group of billionaires urged people to continue to watch reality TV, order Deliveroo and fight amongst themselves, rather than spend a second investigating how neoliberal capitalism is working out for anyone other than the 1%. Well, Broken News tried to secure an interview with the shadowy group, but we were told, shouldn't you be holding a debate on trans women in bathrooms and how come comedians can't tell proper jokes anymore? A good point, well made. That's it from us. You're up to date.
So guys, have a great week. Stay safe no matter wherever you are, and I will see you on Friday, same bad time, same bad channel. Stay safe, take care, and good night.